Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go back to screen share and welcome you to the 7-minute culture cure. Now, as you can see, if you didn't know me already, I'm just trying to move things around on my screen here. Okay, now there we go. All right, if you didn't know already, if you didn't know this about me, I'm going to be very interactive. So I really do ask, like, be here, participate in the chat. This is always a much better experience for you and for me when people participate and really have kind of a conversation. And actually, I'm really thrilled to see that you're here. You can actually participate in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, use the little raise hand icon. I'm happy to call on you and you can unmute and share things as well. So I already see, let's see. I'm trying to get the sound to work. Sorry if I'm not responding. Thanks, Lee. I hope you can hear me. I hope that is everybody else. I'm assuming you can hear me because I'm seeing some response. Hi, Paola. Good to see you. Okay. So let's jump in and I will check this chat a little bit later. Like I said, I will go throughout the presentation, looking at the chat, asking for your feedback and asking you some questions. So I'll be looking for your responses. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and answer those. Ask those in the chat or raise your hand, or best to ask in the chat, and then I'm happy to answer them that way. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Donna Cutting. I am the founder and CEO of Red Carpet Learning Systems. We work with organizations to help them create happy, engaged team members who deliver excellent red carpet service. And speaking of red carpets, also the founder of something new this year, which is the Red Carpet Culture Club. And if you're interested later, we'll give you a little more information about that. So here is the premise of today's presentation. You can revitalize your culture, re-energize your people, and revolutionize your service, even if you only have 7 minutes a day. And I suspect some of you might be a little skeptical about that, but we're going to walk you through that today. So if you are like some of the other people that I'm talking to, my customers, our culture club members, audience members, that people who attend my sessions, you may be feeling some of these things. Exhausted. That was a word that came up in the session the other day. In fact, of a group of people who were excited to be there, who had a lot of great results over the past few months or over the past year, had really overcome a lot. And yet, one of the things that they identified was, we're exhausted. We're frustrated. We don't know which end is up. We're not quite sure what to do next because so much has changed. Yeah, so much has changed. So, right, and this is where I'm going to ask you to participate. I want you to put in the chat, like, when you think of the workplace pre-pandemic, several years ago to today, what are some of the things that you are noticing have changed? So I'll give you a few, but I'm asking you now, so that'll give you a chance to go ahead and put your answers in the chat. So first of all, remote work, like that, it's not new, but it is definitely expanded. And there are so many people now who are looking at that as an option. How can I work remotely? In fact, people can work from anywhere. They can work from other countries. And so there are people who might have been looking for a job in your organization that are now looking for, no, I want to live here and work there, and how can I make that happen? Generations have changed. So we had a lot of baby boomers who decided to retire during the pandemic, and now we have a younger generation coming in that for a lot of good reasons don't have the same loyalty to the workplace as perhaps their parents or their grandparents did, because they grew up in a different way. People are looking, work-life balance has all of a sudden become so much more important. What are some of those other changes? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I'd love to hear, like, what are some of the other changes that you're seeing? Changes in personal connections. Oh, Stephanie, that's a good one. I'm not sure. Do you mean because, if you would clarify, do you mean because people are working remotely that you don't have that personal connection? Or do you mean because you've lost some of the connections you used to have because they've retired or whatever? Clarify, I'd love to hear. What are some of the other changes that people are experiencing right now in the workplace? I know there's lots of them. Let's start with the wages, right? All of a sudden, frankly, they were always important, but now people are feeling more empowered. You are competing against companies who are possibly hiring at higher wages, and that has shifted. That's made a change in the workplace. So I'll come back and see if anyone's added anything, or Stephanie, if you've elaborated on that. So there's lots of changes happening, but there is one thing that has remained the same. Anybody have any guesses as to what that's been? And while you're guessing, what's the one thing I'm thinking of that has absolutely remained the same? While you're guessing, I'm going to read what Stephanie has to say here. Sure, I was thinking about the way we connect is different. Yes. So, for example, we used to have water cooler talks, so to speak, and that has to be done differently to do that virtually with a little more intentionality behind it. Yeah, especially if you have a hybrid workplace or a lot of remote workers. Absolutely. And the key word right there was intention. We're going to be talking about that today with the 7-minute culture cure. Intention, intention, intention. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. Okay, so no guesses as to what's remained the same. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you. And that is that people want to know that they matter. That is one thing in all of these changes that have happened over the last couple of years, really over the last decade. It's been slow, and I think the pandemic sped a few things up. It's people want to know they matter. That is the bottom line. And so there's a few mindsets before we kind of get into what the 7-minute culture cure is that I just want to shift for you. The one that I am hearing a lot still today: nobody wants to work anymore. So if you're struggling to hire people, if you're struggling to bring people in, nobody wants to work anymore. And the problem with that mindset is there's nowhere to go from that. If that's true, and even if you, and I don't believe it's true, but even if you do, even if you believe it's true, then there's nowhere to go. You're kind of stuck. If nobody wants to work anymore, you might as well close up shop because you're not ever going to find employees. So that's not a solution mindset. So the mindset shift that we want to make is the mindset shift. Let me just go here. Yeah, that we want to make is, how do they want to work? How do they want to work? And how can we better support them? So I start with this because we have to start with the premise that it is actually possible to revitalize your culture, re-energize your people, and that means also retain your people, recruit good people, and then revolutionize your service as a result. The second mindset shift I'm going to ask you to make is going from, we need a zillion, and I'm only slightly exaggerating, new initiatives. Let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Oh, and this, and this, and this. To, first, we have to nurture our people. It goes back to letting people know that they matter. The problem with the zillion different initiatives, we're going to talk a little deeply about this later, but if we immediately go into that mindset, this, and this, we end up with just that initiatives, oftentimes not aligned, not integrated, just these disparate things that we are doing to try and quick fix the problem of not being able to hire people, not being able to retain people, and then our service suffering as a result. So first, the very first thing to do is to nurture your people. And so while I was writing the book, not the celebrity experience, I'm sorry, the latest book, which was Employees First, I actually did a little research, and that's how I spent my pandemic. I spent my pandemic virtually connecting with people, and writing the book. And the way I connected with people is first kind of reach out to my customers and just talk to them for a little bit about what was going on so I could have a better understanding, of how it was feeling on your end. And then the other thing I did was I interviewed hourly workers, sometimes on the phone, sometimes virtually. And then even prior to the pandemic, this is what we do at Red Carpet Learning. When we work with an organization long term, the first thing we do is called discovery, and we go in and we interview and talk to team members at every step of the organization, every level of the organization. But this particular study kind of focused on hourly workers. And there was a series of 4 or 5 questions, but really I want to focus on, the first question. So the first question was, please tell me a story. Give me an example that about the last time, or a time, it wasn't the last time, a time when you felt truly valued at work. So tell me a story about a time when you felt truly valued at work. As a matter of fact, if you have a story you would like to share, feel free to raise your hand or put that in the chat while I'm talking. So I had all of these interviews, and then we had our past research from conversations that we've had for, over 2 decades now. So that I have been in business, and we put them into themes because three themes sort of clearly emerged. And I'll tell you the first thing that never was said. What was never said was, oh, when they throw us pizza parties, right? That was said. Not when they throw us pizza parties. Also, another thing that was never said was, oh, this fancy dancy recognition program they have. Occasionally, people would talk about some honor that they received, but it was always then followed up with what it meant to them that a specific person put them up for that honor, or the words that somebody had written in the submission so that they could then receive that award. So the 5 themes of the things that make people feel valued, number 1 was listen to me. Listen. I love it when they listen to me, when I have ideas, when they want to know more about me. That was number 1. Number 2, and by the way, I say number 1, number 2, number 3, but really these are not in any order. These are just the 5 themes that came up. But number 2 on this list, notice me and comment on my contribution. See what I do. Somebody said, not just my job description, not just like a courtesy thank you for what I'm supposed to do anyway, but do you see all of the myriad of little ways that we help customers, that we interact with people, that it's not necessarily in our job description, but it's the special joy, the special talent, the special something that we bring to our job. When somebody notices that and comments on that, that makes me feel valued and important. Oh, lots of stories about people who have see something in me that I don't see. So somebody who had a bigger vision for what this person could do or who they could become or what they could get involved in, that they weren't quite sure of. They were just trusting this person to go ahead and see that in them. And that lots of stories about that. And along the same lines, lots of stories about people who just liked being involved in things. So involved in decision making, involved in projects, just involve me. And then lastly, care about my life outside of work. And this really, I have it in one bucket, but within that one bucket, there are two smaller buckets. So one of those is care about me as an individual, like get to know me, know something about my life. Don't just think about me as a number, as a worker, as one of your employees, but like as a person, get to know me. And then the other one, the other bucket within that number five was about work life balance, like understand that my life is not this job. And that's a shift. That is really a mindset shift. I even see some of my colleagues, struggling with that. We have this whole idea of quiet quitting, which, I have to say I kind of roll my eyes at that, because I think the media loves to like latch on to something and then come up with some phrase, and then that we get inundated with those phrases. But the reality is there have always been people, there are people who are really passionate about what they do. They're going to stay late. They're going to all those things. Then there are people who come in, they do a good job. But they have a life outside of work, and they're more, maybe they're more passionate about something outside of work. And then there are people who really maybe don't do the best job. But when they're talking about quiet quitting, they're usually talking about people who, really are being a little more focused on work-life balance, right? Care about my life outside of work. So Paola, hi, I hope you're hearing. And I'm not sure. Yes, you said hello. Okay. When they recognize me as a good person and a good worker, since I not only do my job, but I cared about some of the residents and brought them their food at lunchtime. Oh, what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing you did, Paola. I love that. And so right there, so Paola just answered the question, tell me a story about a time when you truly felt valued at work. That falls under number two. Notice me and comment on my contribution. So there's one more mindset shift that I just want you to wrap your head around, and that is, we get exhausted because we just think of all the things that we have to do in order to shift this, and the idea that we don't have time. We don't have time to do it. But this is what I'm here to tell you today, that if we really first start by focusing not on the big programs, the projects, the initiatives, and I'm not saying that those aren't necessary. I'm just saying they're maybe not the first thing that we do. You can make people feel valued in 7 minutes a day or less. 7 minutes a day or less. You don't need 20 hours a day. You don't need that big initiative right now. You don't need, by the way, you definitely don't need to be surrounded by people who are so upset by the problem that they can't focus on the solution. So again, that's a mindset shift. That whole, we can't hire anybody because nobody wants to work anymore. No, let's shift that to how do they want to work and what can we do to nurture them. So today I'm going to show you a system for revitalizing your culture, re-energizing your people, and revolutionizing your service in just 7 minutes a day or less. Okay, so who is skeptical? I would imagine there are a few people on this call that are a little skeptical about that idea of 7 minutes a day or less. So let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. The natural inclination when something, when we're not quite figuring things out, is to go right to the programs. So if you think about this, even though employee retention for some right now is challenging, recruitment is challenging. I was just with an audience of people, and they had different locations in different parts of the country, and some of them were actually doing well. They had recruited enough people, and then others not so much. They were still feeling that as part of a challenge. And one of the first things we tend to do is try and come up with, okay, what's the solution? What are all of the programs and the initiatives and the things that we can put into place in order to solve this problem, instead of practices. So as I started to say, this issue now, retention, recruitment, and even like maybe your culture has lost some of its zest, some of its zeal, and then of course your service then suffers. These are not necessarily new problems. We were having in fact, if your organization was having staff retention challenges before the pandemic, just go ahead and put yes in the chat. Let me see how many people, if you were 100% staffed all the time, or if if you're a human resource director. Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing, yeah, it was Googling staff retention. Marilyn, Beth, Amanda, Gina. Yes, this is absolutely, it's not a new thing. And so what we used to do in the past was, come up with all these programs right away, all these initiatives. And like I said, the problem with that is that they're not necessarily aligned. They're not necessarily what's needed. And we have all this disparate things going on that then piles the work onto people. So then they feel more frustrated, less cared about, and are more likely to be disengaged or to leave. So we don't want to go back and do the same thing that we did before. So shifting, again, another mindset shift from program to practices. And the first practices being making our people feel cared about. Because if you focus on program after program after program, it can feel like you're on a toxic treadmill with no end in sight. And I want to just read that again, because that is what I am deeply hearing from so many people right now. I feel that maybe not so much in these words, but basically what they're saying is, I feel like I'm on a toxic treadmill and there is no end in sight. We don't know what to do. And the first step, again, not the programs, it's not the initiatives, it's not the quick fix. It's what happens in the day-to-day interactions between people. And by the way, that's why it's been so difficult to solve, because it is so much easier to look at a program that we have to implement than it is to look at ourselves and look at the interactions that we're having, and really taking the time, taking a little bit of time with people with intention to have more human moments, to really solve the challenge of what makes people feel mattered, like they matter. Your first step isn't the programs. Your first step is to strive to make people feel good. And I say strive, by the way, because obviously we do not have control over how other people feel, right? But we can strive to make people feel good about themselves and the work that they do. Now, many of you might think, I do this already. Like, I'm a good person. And of course you are. You actually wouldn't be here with me. Like, that is one of the things that I know is that our work and what we're about attracts people who are amazing, who are good people, who are caring people. It's why you are why I love to continue to do what I do. The challenge, though, is that we're absolutely all human. So it's really difficult sometimes to think, oh, we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at how we're interacting with people. That's a deeper level than let's just put this program in place, right? Let's just do this. And it's harder to do that. So just the idea that we're all human, I'm going to ask to for everyone to be brave. Now, normally, if you were in my audience in person, I would have you standing up, right? And I would be standing up right along with you. This time, I'm going to ask you to give me a yes, give me a thumbs up, give me a something. If you have ever done these things, okay? So be brave. Know that every single thing I am about to say, I have done too. All right. So just the idea that we're all human. Have you ever looked at your phone while having a conversation with another person? Let me see. Yeses. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Gina's the first brave one. Beth, Amy. Yep. I'm right there with you. Unfortunately, yes. Amanda. Yep. Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Joe. Yep. Yeah. We all have done that. How many of you have ever, Paola, how many of you have ever gossiped about someone else? I have gossiped about somebody else. Yes, yes, I know it's hard. Yes, of course, Gina says. Yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes. How many of you have ever interrupted someone else when they were talking? Yes, yes, yes. Anyone? I'm saying yes. Yep. Yep. Sometimes. Yep. My downfall, Gina, I am right there with you. It's the thing my husband drives my husband crazy. Yes, yes. Joe, can we please plead the fifth on this, right? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm gonna stop right there. Yes, I get so excited. I just want to share. Stephanie, it's the same thing with me. Like that is for me too. I get so excited by what the other person is saying. I just want to share. And yet, it, as we know, those are the kinds of things, right, that can make people feel shut down, not heard, not listened to, right? And so that is, first of all, the challenge. It's why sometimes I think we go right to the quick fix rather than looking at a deeper level. And there's a reason why I have people, in my audiences and then here today do that exercise. By the way, when I'm live, I usually have a big list of like 10 things, and everybody's standing up for most of them. But it's because to show we all do this, right? We can all get better, but this is the harder, it's they're the harder things to fix, right? They're the harder because we really have to look at ourselves. We have to change habits, right? Oops, that was the slide for that particular exercise. The second challenge, and this is a big one for me, is that we lack consistency. So you're thinking, you know what, she's talking about all this simple stuff, just, commenting on someone's contribution and listening to them. I do all those things. I'm a good person. The question is, how consistent is it? And is everyone having a consistent experience on the team? So it's time, and who was it earlier? It was somebody earlier, intentional, who said that. Yeah, it was Stephanie, right? Virtually, more intentionality behind it. And I said, yes, that is the word. It is time to get intentional about the things that we do to let people know that they are seen or heard. So again, looking at, we can go from like the mindset, the quick fix mindset of let's design this big fancy recognition program, to what I'm calling the 7-minute culture cure. Let's spend 7 minutes a day Noticing and commenting on the contributions of team members, right? Um, the next one, the quick fix. We're going to listen to employees, so we're going to survey all employees. By the way, I am not saying that those surveys are bad. We are going to go back to where all of the recognition program, the survey, where it all fits in. What I'm saying is it may not necessarily be the first thing to do. So the 7-minute culture cure, let's spend 7 minutes a day with employees and get their feedback. The quick fix, let's have an employee appreciation party. So lots of those. I'm going to tell you, when I was interviewing people during the pandemic, there was more than one person who said something along the lines of, if they throw us one more appreciation party, I'm going to scream, right? Or one more pizza party. And it's not a good thing. You know, somebody challenged me on that one time. It's like, but that's part of our culture. Yeah, it is. It is a great part of your culture. I am down for a pizza and a good taco bar. And I say, do them. But what we don't want to do is confuse the fun cultural things with what actually makes people feel valued and want to stay. So the 7-minute culture cure way might be, let's invite someone to lunch. We might not have lunch in 7 minutes, but we're going to eat lunch anyway, right? Work-life balance. So in 7 minutes, I can invite somebody to lunch, and so I can get to know them better. So again, the programs aren't bad. So, and I'll give you an example. Like, we have customers right now who, and some of them, we've helped them with this, where they have put together very intensive, like, exceptional 2.5 to 3 day employee orientations. It was a big initiative. It was a big effort. It definitely took more than 7 minutes a day, and even rolling it out is taking more than 7 minutes a day. And yet they are seeing a definite impact on their employee retention, right? As a matter of fact, I know there's somebody here on this call today who's one of those, and they're seeing an impact on the energy, the excitement, and then one of our other customers is already starting to see an impact on employee retention. So I'm the last person to say that those things are bad. Like, they're good, they're necessary. They may just not be the first step, and we also don't want to do them. We don't want to do them in place of really looking at the interactions that people have with each other. The 7-minute culture cure is more personal. It's more personal. It gets to the heart of the matter, which is that people want to know that they matter. It's about consistency, 7 minutes a day, which, by the way, is my biggest problem. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute. Let's see. I love that. Okay, good. Yeah, Paola is saying, just last Friday we had our Christmas party for employees and we danced for them while sharing a delicious meal, and they were very happy. Absolutely. And again, like, just to give you a little history, so my background years ago, decades ago, was in senior living. I was in activities. I was in charge of the employee morale club. Like, those are the things I love, and I would be all about that holiday party for sure, for sure. My only sort of caution is that we don't rely on those things instead of getting to the heart of the matter, which is what makes each individual person who works for you feel like they matter, and how can we be more intentional about showing individual people that they matter. So noticing and commenting on their contribution, listening, seeing something they don't see in themselves, involving them in projects. Maybe it's even involving them in planning the holiday party, and then work-life balance, and seeing me as an individual person, getting to know me. So consistency, getting back to consistency, is and yeah, I'm gonna look at all of, thank you for getting into the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and read all of these things a little bit later, but first let me just tell you, when I think of consistency, that is my biggest problem. I'm a creative person, I think. I like the creative stuff. I do not like to have the same day twice. I think that is a hallmark of somebody who works for themselves or owns their own company. And so, but it's become one of my biggest downfalls is consistency. So whether I'm talking about, sales, or even like if you're on my newsletter, that there are times where every single week you're getting a newsletter from me, and other times it's like it'll be a month or 5 or 6 weeks before you hear from me at all. It's that issue with consistency. So recently, and this is kind of where the red carpet culture cure kind of popped up in my mind. Two things have happened in my personal life that really made me see the value of just small increments of time. So the first is that I really love handwritten thank you notes. I think as somebody who owns a company called Red Carpet Anything, handwritten thank you notes should be something that I do. And yet I was having a really hard time getting them done until my friend Liz, who owns she owns a company called Wiser Health and Fitness, and I work out with her. Speaking of consistency, I work out with her virtually 3 times a week. But she has this thing on her platform called Commit and Do every Friday for 30 minutes, not 7 minutes, it's 30 minutes. And so every Friday morning, I now log in to Commit and Do, and there are a bunch of people there, people that are in my workout classes as well. And Liz is there, and she puts on some music. We just choose whatever it is we're going to do. And then at the end, we tell everybody what we did. So there are people who organize their closets, or maybe they do 30 minutes of writing, or maybe they read a book. For me, I chose to do handwritten notes at that point. And all of a sudden, for the last like month and a half, I have written so many more handwritten notes because I have this dedicated time of 30 minutes every single week that I do that. The other thing, then I decided, okay, I'm going to use this same mentality around getting my house clean, because and to give props to my husband, like it's his job sometimes. He's great at it, but he's had some health challenges this year. It just hasn't been getting done as much as we would like, and I didn't really want to hire somebody to do it, but it was not getting done. Like I won't show pictures, let's just put it that way. So I decided to kind of put this little mindset to work. And since we were doing the 7 minute culture cure, I decided to set it at 7 minutes. So once a week, I spend, like couple of hours just quickly like cleaning the house. But every single day, I spend 7 minutes, sometimes more. Sometimes I get started on a project and it goes to like 10 or 15 minutes, but I only commit to 7 minutes. I set a timer, and like I organize a shelf, or I clean the counters in my kitchen or whatever, and my house looks amazing because of this. Like it is just so much neater, it is so much cleaner. And it really is, for the most part, this focus on just 7 minutes a day doing a task. That's the mindset shift that I made. And then yeah, in less than 7 minutes. So when you take 7 minutes a day, the only thing you have to decide is what are you going to do in those 7 minutes. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to read Stephanie's message in just now, but I'm going to ask you, because I'm going to give you a formula for the 7 minute culture cure. But I want you to think for a moment about what could you do in 7 minutes a day or less that you think would have an impact on the culture of your organization, re-energizing your people, or revolutionizing your service. Go ahead and write those ideas in the chat. What could you do in 7 minutes a day or less? And Stephanie, I'm part of a fully remote team. All right. And this week we are going to do a virtual spirit week. I love it, to build connections and get to know each other. Oh, that's so good. Example is Tradition Tuesday. Share your favorite holiday tradition. I love that. Incidentally, that's 7 minutes or less. Like, depending on how large your team is, in 7 minutes or less, you could do something like that. Let's have Tradition Tuesday. Let's everybody go around the circle and share your favorite holiday tradition. And what it does is help people to get to know each other better. Um, okay, great. These are so great. Amanda, write a thank you note. Yes. Paola, answer the emails that I have left pending. Yes. Stephanie, what are you doing your other days? Yeah, Stephanie, Amy wants to know, what are you doing your other days, right? Amy, organize my desk for the day. Yes. And how does that impact your culture? Like, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel refreshed and ready to go out there and organize so that you can do things well. Absolutely. So what we have done is we've put this into, surprise, surprise, 7 categories, right? 7 categories of things that you could do in 7 minutes a day or less to impact your culture, impact your people, let them know they matter, and revolutionize your service as a result. So here are the categories. So I'm gonna ask for you to give me some examples of this. So the first is write. You can write something. So already Amy said, I'm sorry, Amanda said, write a thank you note. Yes, you could write a thank you note. You could, another thing you could write is a text. You could write a text to somebody, letting them know what you noticed that was so great that they did the other day, right? Or write an encouraging text to somebody. What else could you write? I'm just going to give you a minute here and see, what could you write in 7 minutes or less that would be an encouragement, that you think, if enough people were doing this every single day, would have an impact on your culture. What could you write? Whoops, I'm giving you the second one. Okay, while you're thinking of what you can write, I want you to think also about speaking. What could you say in 7 minutes a day or less? You could let somebody know what you really appreciate about them. You could pick up the phone and call somebody's mom and let them know what you appreciate about their son or daughter that works for you. And by the way, Amy and everybody, Stephanie is putting in the chat all of the different themes that they have going on for their remote workforce. So I'll read those out a little bit later. So what could you write? What could you speak? By the way, for those of you, I know we have some of our Red Carpet Culture Club members on the line today. So one of the things you could speak is, you could actually have a discussion around a customer service topic in 7 minutes or less. So for our Culture Club members who are here on the line, we have actually in your platform, we have little videos that are 2 minutes or less. We call it 52 weeks of service. So very specific customer service topics. And then there's a downloadable that comes with that. And they have little discussion questions or activities. And many of those, between the video and the activities, can be done in 7 minutes or less a day. So what could you write? What could you speak? What could you ask? So in 7 minutes a day, you could ask for somebody's opinion. You could ask someone to be involved in a project. You could ask somebody to tell you a little bit more about them. You could ask somebody what their long-term goals are and how you might be able to help make those come true, right? You could play. So in 7 minutes a day or less, you could do you 7 minutes a day or less, you could do dance party, right? In 7 minutes a day or less, you could play. This was one of my audience members' ideas recently. They play. There's lava. The floor is lava. So it goes out in text. It goes out on walkie talkies, and somebody will just say the floor is lava, and wherever anybody is, they pick up their feet, right? So this is less than 7 minutes. And I said, and what's the result? And she said, well, the result is we're just having fun and we laugh and it's just something everybody knows. It's kind of one of our traditions. So in what ways could you play in 7 minutes a day or less? Um, in 7 minutes a day or less, you could learn. So there might be, you could, here's a good one. You could ask somebody for feedback. You could learn a little bit feedback about a way that you're going to approach a conversation you have to have, and say, I'd like to learn like how to do this better. Could you give me some feedback? You could learn about a topic that you're then going to share with the rest of your team that's going to help them in some way. What could you learn in 7 minutes a day or less? What could you create in 7 minutes a day or less? So create, just thinking off the top of my head, you could create videos that you could take your cell phone. I'll bring mine up here. Take your cell phone and ask a team member to say what it is that they love about their job, and create a little video. And if you did that 7 minutes a day for, let's say, 27 days, you would have 27 videos that would then be recruitment tools, refresher tools, re-energizing people, getting them back to what makes a difference, and why they come to work every single day. If you have, by the way, is it Stephanie? If you have like Stephanie remote employees, oh my gosh, there's so many little things that you could create in order to help people get to know each other. So, and then finally think. So in 7 minutes a day, you could think or reflect on maybe a habit that it's time for you to change, because that habit is prohibiting you from letting people know that they matter. You could, in 7 minutes a day, you could come up with 7 ideas. You could get people together and say, we're going to think of 7 different ideas to re-energize our people, revitalize our culture, and revolutionize our workplace. So let me look. I'm looking over here. So Amy, Stephanie's ideas here. Meaningful Monday, share ways that your family give back. All of these 7 minutes a day, by the way. That would be speak. Wacky Wednesday, snap a pic. Ooh, that's show. Maybe we have to add another one. Snap a pic in your wacky holiday gear. Thankful Thursday. What are you grateful for this year? And what are you looking forward to next year? Festive Friday. Wear your holiday pajamas as we celebrate with a virtual holiday party. I love it. Gina, first thing in the morning when I get to work, I go around and say good morning and ask if they need anything from me. Yes, that's absolutely it. Ask. That's under the category of ask, Gina. 7 minutes a day. Stephanie loves the play and have fun lava event. I love it. Very, very good. Okay, so we have, and I'm going to make this download available to everybody. So this is, by the way, a public event. We do have, and let me know if you're interested in learning more, just hearing about it. The Red Carpet Culture Club. I know I've mentioned it a few times. So if you're interested, I'd like to share a little bit more about that. But we are in the Red Carpet Culture Club, we're actually going to issue a challenge to our members next month. And that is what we're calling the 7-minute culture cure challenge. And the idea behind that is that we're going to take 7 minutes a day, and you're going to take 7 people, and come up with 7 different things that you're going to do that week. And there's actually a couple of lines, so if you want to do 7 minutes a day in the morning and 7 minutes a day before you leave, you could actually do 14 minutes a day, to actually be a little more intentional about how we're helping people feel like they matter. So in other words, you would write the date. You would have 7 people in your little circle that were committing to do this, committing to take this challenge. And then you get together in the beginning of the week and you all decide what are we going to write? We're going to write a thank you note. We're going to write a text. Are we going to write? And people could do different things. We're going to write an email. Or we're going to write a note to somebody's mom. What are we going to speak? Right? What are we going to ask? Are we going to ask for their opinion? Are we going to ask for their help? What are we going to play? What are we going to learn? What are we going to create? And what are we going to think about? What are we going to reflect on? And then if you issue it like a challenge, like we're going to do with our culture club members, then at the end of the week, everybody comes back. During the week, you actually do check marks or stars or whatever if you actually did your 7 minutes. And then at the end of the week, you come back and kind of reflect on that, talk about it. How did it feel? What difference do you think it made? And you keep doing it, repeat, repeat, repeat. And if you have more than 7 people who are committing to do this, then you have more groups. So you just have more groups that kind of work together. And the key to this, or the idea behind this, is to get people thinking of just those little things that we can do in 7 minutes a day, getting people to be a little more intentional about doing them, and getting all of, whether it's your leadership team or you involve everybody on the team, thinking about the solution. How do we revitalize our culture? How do we re-energize people, rather than sitting in the problem of nobody wants to work anymore and we're exhausted and we're tired and all of those things. So Stephanie, I also love creative video. Definitely going to use that one too. Good. So, and I'll give you like one more little example. My friend Relinda always starts every conversation with the question, what's your celebration? What's your celebration? And I love that. Just, you could go around the circle and ask everybody what their celebration is. So, okay, so, but what I mentioned is that, we actually are going to do this in what we call our Red Carpet Culture Club. So there are going to be prizes, there are going to be all kinds of things. Our goal is to get as many people as possible intentional about doing these 7-minute-a-day things or less. And so I'm going to quickly, let me just go share my screen again, and I'm going to share a different screen. Pull this up. Yeah. Let me just quickly show you what that is. So I had this idea several months ago that really, it was a long time before I finally brought it to fruition. But the idea being that I was just listening to everybody talk about being so exhausted, we don't know what to do, and realizing that the best practices, that maybe were working and maybe weren't working in the past, are really not necessarily going to carry forward into the future, and that we had to come up with next practices. And rather than having being surrounding with a whole group of people who weren't focused on the solutions, were just focused on the problems, I wanted to create a community of people who would come together, lift each other up, share next practices, and then myself and my team at Red Carpet, could also share resources and experts and things that were going to help people, like one place that they could go where they could get exactly what they needed to help as you navigate this changing workforce. So that is what we are calling the Red Carpet Culture Club. And I'm going to show you the platform. I'll tell you a little bit about it. First of all, we are In January, so those members who are on the line, be ready. We are going to launch this as a challenge. There's going to be prizes. We're really going to, and my whole team is dedicated to doing it as well. So my entire team is doing the challenge ourselves. And we don't have a big team, so we might do it with customers and that kind of thing. Um, but also, really, the Culture Club provides like three different things. So, number one is we have live virtual events. So, we have right now, we haven't scheduled the January one. So, this is the last one tomorrow on Thursday. It's Q&A with Donna with lots of different coaching and that kind of, it's kind of a one-on-one coaching, but it's a group coaching with me and then with other people. And then once we have the events, they're actually put right on the platform. So obviously we have like 4 or 5 events every single month. Obviously not everybody can show up for that. So then they're recorded. One of the best things we did this particular a couple of weeks ago is this event we called What's Working. For those of you who are in the club, if you have not looked at this recording yet, please do. It was one of the best things we've done yet, and we're going to do more of it. So members came together and they shared their next practices. Like, what are they doing right now that has actually helped them recruit people, help them retain people, help them revitalize and energize their culture? It was incredible. Kathy was there. She can tell you, like, it was just awesome. But all of those different things, like we have people speaking of remote work for Stephanie. So we have when our members tell us what they need, what they're struggling with, we bring in experts to help them with that. We create tip sheets. We are building this entire platform based on what people say that they need. And then, of course, every single month we have master classes as well. Some of them we've invited the public to. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to have separate public events and separate red carpet culture events. And those recordings are only available, the red carpet culture recordings are only available to club members. Then, of course, we have online courses. So this is where the 7 minutes culture cure challenge is going to be. It's actually going to be an online course. Every single day, there's going to be something that we challenge you to do in 7 minutes or less. There's going to be a leaderboard. We're going to keep track of who's doing what. There'll be prizes. There'll be lots of fun. One of the things that I talked about was the 52 weeks of customer service. So every single week, my director of curriculum or I do a 2-minute video on a very specific customer service topic. You can log in, you can show that to your team members, and then there's a downloadable thing with discussion questions, activities, that kind of thing. We now are talking to members who are saying, gosh, what we really need are tip sheets. We need tip sheets for our supervisors for how they can lead one-on-one activities. We need questions for state interviews, those kinds of things. So we're in the process now of developing all of those things because that's what people are saying they need right now. And then finally, and this is the biggest part of being part of the Culture Club, is the community. Like, we have a community of people who are dedicated to showing up, lifting each other up, sharing their next practices, sharing what they're doing, so that we're not just sitting in this alone trying to figure it out, but that we are helping each other navigate this changing, world of work. So that's the red carpet culture club piece. And I'd love to invite you. In fact, Kathy, if you want to go ahead, if you have it open and you can put the link, let me see, I may have the link right here, into the chat in case anybody wants more information, and we'll send you more information about that as well. So I'm going to end with one last thing. Number one, I'll tell you, everybody who registered for this will get the video. So this is a public event, so you will get the video. You will also get the sheet that I showed you with the different categories. So if you want to go ahead and challenge 7 people to do the 7-minute culture cure, that would be amazing. And then we'll send you the link to the Culture Club as well if you would like. But I'm going to end with one last example. So this is my smile file. I have in this folder every handwritten note, every email, just lots of things people have made for me. And that's actually a small one. This is the bigger one. So I actually have two files after many, many years. And what I do with it is when I'm having a tough day, those files come out and I go through every single thing that anyone's ever written, that anyone has ever said. If there was an email, I'll take screenshots of text and print those out and put them in. And so, in 7 minutes a day or less, you could contribute to somebody else's smile file. There are so many different things you could do. Oh, and that was the last thing I forgot to mention. One of our things that we're offering all of the red carpet culture members is that in that challenge we have come up with 97 different ways that fit into all of those different categories, that use 97 different actions you can take in 7 minutes or less. So for our members, that will all be part of the challenge. But for you, if you're not a member and it's not something you can do right now, we are going to give you the little sheet so you can kind of come up with your own ways to do that, and hopefully use some of the ones that we use today, that we talked about today as well. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask now. Otherwise, I'm just going to say thank you so much for showing up. It was so good to see you, and I hope you will get back to me and tell me, what you are doing. Yeah, thank you, Gina. What you are doing in 7 minutes or less to really revitalize your culture. Thank you. Thank you, Gina. You're welcome. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Oh, good, Amy. That's great.